Meet Alicia. She is an aspiring art pojo, and her goal in life is to create fake paintings that look just like famous works of art. There's also an expert art critic named Nan. His job is to tell whether a painting is real or fake created by Alicia. Initially, Alicia starts with no artistic skills at all and can only produce random scribbles. While Nan has some experience in identifying real versus fake paintings, but he's not perfect. Alicia creates a batch of fake paintings using her limited skills, and Nan is given a mix of real paintings from a museum and Alicia's counterfeit paintings. Now he has to go through each painting and decide whether it is a fake created by Alicia or a real painting from the museum. Nan goes through each painting and makes his judgments. He provides feedback, indicating which painting he identified as fake and which is real. Alicia learns from this feedback. She improves her painting skills to make her fakes look more like the real ones. Nan also learns. He gets better at spotting fake paintings by studying Alicia's previous attempts and the real paintings. Over many iterations, Alicia gets better at painting. Nan gets better at spotting the difference. This game continues until Alicia becomes so skilled that Nan can no longer easily tell the difference and falls into thinking that Alicia's paintings are real. So what we just saw is a simple example of generative adversarial network or GAN, where we have two components. First is the generator, which is a neural network that learns to create data from random noise. It improves over time by trying to fool the discriminator. Like in our example, Alicia was generating fake paintings and was the generator. Second, discriminator. This is another neural network that learns to distinguish between real data and fake data generated by the generator. It improves over time by being exposed to both real and fake data. In our example, Nan was acting as the discriminator by trying to distinguish between real and fake paintings. The generator and discriminator are trained together in a competitive setting. The generator tries to produce convincing fake data, and discriminator tries to get better at identifying fakes. Now let's see the working of GAN in action. The generator receives a random noise vector as input initially. It uses the internal layers and weights to transform this noise into a data sample. For example, the data sample it produces can be a generated image. Then, the discriminator receives two kinds of input. First, real data samples from the training data set, and second, the generated data samples, which are fake. Then, the discriminator outputs a probability score for each input, indicating whether it is real or fake in its opinion. So, if the probability score given by the discriminator for an image is close to 1, that means the discriminator predicts that it is real. And if the score is close to 0, it predicts it is fake. Then, after the prediction is made, the loss function for the discriminator is calculated to measure how well it distinguishes real data from fake data. So, a loss function basically tells how much better we can make our model. If the value produced by this function is high, then our model is not so good. So, we aim to minimize the value produced by the loss function. Let's look at discriminator's loss function closely. Here, x is the real data and z is the noise vector. G of z is the fake data produced by the generator. And d of x is the discriminator's probability score for the real sample. D of gz is the discriminator's probability score for the fake sample. So, d of x ideally should be closer to 1 as it is output for the real sample. And we saw earlier that for real sample, the output should be closer to 1. And G and D of G of Z should be closer to 0, ideally. Let's only focus on the first part of this equation. Here is a graph of log function for the values between 0 and 1. Notice that the value of log 1 is 0, and the more we move towards 0, the value keeps becoming negative. The output value keeps becoming negative. So, if d of x is close to 1, then log of d of x is close to 0. This means negative of log of dx will be closer to 0. And if d of x is close to 0, then log d of x will be a negative number, and minus log d of x will always be higher than in case of closer to 1. So, the minimization for this first term of loss function happens when the output is closer to 1, thus encouraging the discriminator to predict real images closer to 1. Similarly, for the second term, due to 1 minus d of g of z, a similar effect happens, but it encourages the discriminator to produce the output closer to 0 for fake images as it should be. Hence, this loss function overall is minimized when discriminator correctly classifies real data as real and generated data as fake. Now, the discriminator's weights are updated through backpropagation to minimize the loss, improving its ability to distinguish between real and fake data. After training the discriminator, we calculate the loss function for the generator to measure how well it fools the discriminator. This function is minimized when d of g of z is high, meaning discriminator classifies the generated data as real as the generator is trying to fool the discriminator. Now, the generator's weights are updated through backpropagation to minimize loss function, improving its ability to generate realistic data that can fool the discriminator. The training process is iterative, with the generator and discriminator taking turns to improve. When the generator is training, the discriminator's weights stay constant, and when the discriminator is getting trained, generator's weights and bias remains constant. Over many iterations, the generator improves its data generation capabilities, making it harder for the discriminator to distinguish. Similarly, the discriminator becomes more skilled at identifying real versus fake generated data. When the generator reaches a point where it can consistently generate realistic data that the discriminator cannot distinguish from real data, the generator is considered well trained and the process ends. So, all this is good, but why do we need GANs? GANs are powerful because they can generate realistic data without needing to explicitly program the features of the data. If you have a small amount of image data but need a large amount, you will feed it as real examples to the discriminator, and then GAN will produce high quality similar data. This has many applications, such as creating lifelike images, improving image resolution, generating new music, and even creating video game textures. There are various types of generative adversarial network, each designed to address specific challenges or enhance particular aspects of GAN framework. Let's see some widely used types. So first is vanilla GAN. As in the name, this is the original form of GAN and it consists of simple generator and discriminator network. It is used in basic image generation. Then comes deep convolutional GAN or DC GANs. These are an extension of original GANs and they utilize deep convolutional neural network in both the generator and the discriminator. It gives improved image quality and stability in training, and is widely used for generating high quality images. Then third, we have conditional GAN or CGAN. Both the generator and discriminator receive additional information or conditions such as class labels or data from other modalities. By using conditions, CGANs can generate data with desired properties such as specific classes of images, particular styles, or attributes. Then comes cycle GAN. Cycle GAN is designed for unpaired image to image translation tasks, allowing translation between two domains without requiring paired examples. For example, it can be used to transform summer landscape photos into winter landscape photos and vice versa without requiring paired examples. With this, we conclude this video that gives a gentle introduction to generative adversarial networks. I hope you learned a lot and see you in the next video.